Are you an author looking for a way to create, print, and sell your books through all major retail channels? Or are you an artist, educator, or nonprofit organization looking for a way to easily publish content through a well-established and reputable company? Then you'll want to hear from today's guest expert, Chelsea Bennett of Lulu.com. Stay tuned. Welcome to Self-Publishing with Dale, where you'll learn tips and strategies for publishing your own books. Today's guest, Chelsea Bennett, is the Public Relations and Events Coordinator for Lulu.com, one of the leaders in print-on-demand services. I've been loosely following Lulu.com for the past year and more recently was drawn to their YouTube channel, Lulu Press, hosted by Chelsea. It only takes a few minutes before you'll discover Chelsea is the perfect mouthpiece for this company. Her open enthusiasm and clear knowledge of the business keeps me tuned in every week. It's Chelsea's infectious energy and insights that bring her to the channel today. Welcoming to the channel, long time in the making, Chelsea Bennett. How you feeling?
Hey, I feel great. After an introduction like that, how could I feel anything less than energetic and wonderful? So thank you. That was very kind.
Hey, thanks. It always throws people off because I always say this, we're off and like my energy's down, we're kind of chill. I got to turn it on. It's the showman in me, and I think it kind of annoys a few people, but they'll be all right.
Right. I was thinking how disappointing it would be if I was like, hey, I'm Chelsea, thanks.
Yeah, it's just like this, really generic. This is, Chelsea, what's up? Hey, I'm Chelsea. How you doing? Yeah, that's the way we roll. And see, this is the kind of, entertainment that we're providing out the gate. What more do we have to offer here? I'm telling you.
Just more infection coming your way. It's all over the place.
Yeah, so I can ask you a lot of the traditional questions, and that's just going to kind of waste our time. I want to kind of get down to the meat and potatoes because Lulu's been around for 15 years. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, around there since 2002. So we were kind of, the first in the game on, self-publishing print on demand. So yeah, we're the OGs, if you will.
Yes, the OGs of it. So I noticed that you've had a YouTube channel for quite some time. Until a couple of months ago, Lulu Press on YouTube had just, promotional videos. They were very well produced. And then you came along and kind of created this disruption. And that's what really kind of grabbed my attention because you were doing some more information-based tutorial style videos. Why the sudden change?
Well, first of all, thank you for being a longtime fan, first time caller. So I appreciate that. So, so we were doing more informational videos, and this really goes back to, very similar with self-publishing, but it's about knowing your audience and understanding what they're looking for and what information they're looking for. And so we noticed, Google Trends, where people were starting to type in more long tail questions. So you're not typing dog, you're typing, what do dogs like to do? Or, what do dogs think of? Or, whatever. So, so just kind of keeping in with that, it's not people typing in self-publishing anymore, but it's, how can I self-publish smarter? Or how can I edit when I'm self-publishing? Or, kind of looking into things like this. And we just kind of saw that there was I wish I could take credit for it, but I have a great team that we work together. And so we saw that there was an opening and kind of a need for this information of like, when someone comes to YouTube and types in, how do I self-publish? What's coming up? Or if someone types in, what is self-publishing? What's there? And, since, as we just said, we've been around for a long time. So we're like, hey, we might have some answers to those questions that are worthwhile. So we kind of threw our hat in the ring there and then started Lulu University. And it's been really good. I mean, just to kind of hear the feedback has been really positive, but just being able to provide information on something that may seem scary or intimidating and presenting it in a personable and interesting and informative way, there just seemed to be a need for it. And so that was sort of our motivation for the change.
Yeah, I really love it. The production value is just off the charts. A lot of people will say to me, they're like, oh, your production's great. But then I look over at Lulu Press and you guys are just crushing it. And you brought up something, and I would like to kind of backtrack just a little bit here after I gave you a nice little compliment.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about long tail keywords and the value of how it's kind of brought in more of what people are looking for, what your ideal audience is looking for. Do you see any parallel between the business of video publishing and self-publishing books?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think that, nowadays we have so many tools and resources to where it doesn't have to be just one or the other. As a self-published author, and really you should think of yourself, if you are a self-published author, you're a business person, and you're managing your own business. And so when you think about it, there's no need to think like, oh, self-publishing books is this way and self-publishing, content or videos are this way. It's really a holistic view. And now the resources and tools that are available to entrepreneurs, and self-publishers and business, men and women, it's just, there's no need to try to think of one or the other, but there are just so many tools to be able to do all of it. So there are definitely parallels there. And when you see things that are working with your self-publishing work, like when you find a niche that you're really fitting into, then you can bet those people want to see video content too. And if you're nailing it with your self-published content, then they're going to want to see more in different formats and different forms. So, there's some theories out there about unicorn versus donkeys, and donkeys are the boring content that's kind of, you put it out, no one really cares. The unicorns are the content that you put out and then you just nail it and it's great. And then you just keep doing those unicorns. You keep having to make unicorn babies and keep doing what works. So if you're doing something you're self-publishing that's really working, then try to translate that to video and see what happens. I mean, it's definitely worth, if you don't like it, just delete it, man. It probably lives forever, but you can delete it. It's fine.
Yeah, in most instances. That's amazing. The first time on this channel that content has been referred to as unicorns versus donkeys.
I wish I could take credit for it. You'll have to credit the guy who came up with this. I forgot his name right now, but I'll get it to you. So I cannot, unfortunately, take credit for that. But yeah, unicorns.
Tremendous. What makes Lulu.com different from other print-on-demand companies and ebook distribution platforms?
Well, I think it really goes back to the genesis of Lulu. So our founder, his name is Bob Young, and he also founded Red Hat Software. And so it was the co-founder of Red Hat. And so Red Hat is at its core very, it's really into open source and sharing information. And Bob, through his experience through Red Hat, wanted to write a book about it and had a really terrible time traditionally publishing, and had a ton of books, and it was just a really long and expensive and aggravating process. And so he just felt like, open source is something that can translate to publishing, and there should be a platform where people, there aren't barriers to entry and people are able to come and tell their story and share their knowledge with whoever they want to share it with. There doesn't need to be gatekeepers or publishers saying, you know what, this isn't really marketable, or you know what, this isn't really on trend, or in 18 to 24 months when we're actually able to publish your work, no one's going to care. So he thought, this is a huge void. We need something that is available for people to come and publish the work that you have and your voice, and share it with people who care. And so I think that is really what sets us apart. It's just in our DNA. It's about supporting and empowering people to get their story out there. So that's kind of one thing. But then the other thing that, people may argue is even more enticing is that it's completely free to publish with Lulu. It's very low risk. I always like to say it's low risk, high reward, because you publish for free and you only pay when you want to buy print copies of the book. So if you're doing an ebook with us, it's completely free. And our revenue splits are, the highest in the industry. So we do 80-20 for print books. So the creator keeps 80% of the revenue, Lulu gets 20. And for ebooks, it's 90-10. So the creator's keeping 90% of the revenue and Lulu gets 10. Yeah. And then we have global distribution that's also free. So, not only are you able to sell through our Lulu bookstore, but you can sell through Amazon, Ingram, Barnes & Noble. We do, iBooks and Kobo and all of these other things too. So we have a lot of outlets. And so those are kind of the three of our highlights, but I could go on. But those are three things when people kind of ask for the quick and dirty, why would I go with Lulu? That's, I think those are sort of the hard to argue points as to, why we're the best.
Yeah. You've covered some of the main features. So what are a few things people don't know currently about Lulu.com and should?
Well, I think that one of the most important things to know about publishing or self-publishing is that it's not just for authors. So, of course, authors are, we love authors and that's a big part of what we do. But also, as you mentioned in the intro, you're selling it for me, but educators, artists, entrepreneurs, and, businesses alike can also utilize publishing. And so one thing that people probably don't know about Lulu right now is that Lulu Express is a platform that we just launched. It's sort of like a stripped down version of Lulu. So, with Lulu, you can go through, get your ISBN, distribute, through our channels, and sell through our bookstore. With Lulu Express, you just go upload your content and print. So if you have a course that you're teaching, or if you have, some manuals you want to print out, or journals or workbooks or something that you just want to sell, by hand or through your website, and you don't need global distribution, you don't need an ISBN number or an ISBN, then you can go straight to Lulu Express and just upload and go. And so that's one thing. And then even maybe more exciting than that is that our Lulu Express platform is being integrated into Shopify as an app. So now we'll be the first ever print-on-demand plugin for Shopify. So I think that's really exciting.
Wow, congrats on that one. That's big news, man. I'm gonna have to launch as soon as possible. That's really exciting.
Yeah. So that's definitely that's coming, in the next couple of weeks. So we're super excited about that. And actually, probably by the time this is live, it'll be out. But yeah.
That is tremendous. That's awesome. Kudos. That's really, I'm actually really excited about that.
A lot of work. Yeah, a lot of work. But again, it's like, it all goes back to listening to your audience and your community and what they want. And, all of our creators and all, self-publishers in general want more control, and they want more ways to sell their content. And so we want to be able to provide that. So that's sort of why that came to be.
Being head of public relations for Lulu.com, can you share some easy ways for people to promote and market themselves on the cheap?
Yeah, so that's something that we are constantly asked. I would say when we go to shows and conferences, our authors, their number one question is like, how can I market my book? And, writing a book is hard, but the work, a lot of people say the work starts when you publish, because that's when you have to get out there and start beating down the pavement and getting the word out. And so I referenced this earlier, but there are so many tools available today to creators, and it's easier than ever before if you're willing to put the work in to get your book out there. And I will say, with the caveat that the content is good. So if you don't have good content, then no amount of free or paid marketing is going to get you anywhere. So make sure that it's good content. So assuming that the content's great and you've got a great cover, the social media is kind of always the go-to because it's so accessible, and you're always going to be able to find communities there that you can fit into with your genre. So I'll start with emails. I'll start with social media. So social media is a great way to start, because there's so many different communities and people are so active on social media. But the thing to note about that is that you don't want to spread yourself too thin. You want to identify where your audience is and then focus on that channel, or channels, depending on what your genre or your niche is. So once you kind of identify the platforms where your community is most active, then it's very inexpensive. I mean, you can put $10, $20, $50 into ads on Facebook or on Twitter, and then it'll get you pretty far. So you don't have to spend thousands of dollars and see no results. You can kind of test out the waters and put $10 behind an ad or $20, and then if it did well, continue to pay for it, and if not, then kind of change your strategy there. So social media is a great one, of course. And one thing to note about that is find other authors in your genre, or find other people that are talking about what you're writing about, and then work with them. I know for authors starting out especially, you can see other authors as competitors, but none of us just reads one author. So it's really good to team up and make these relationships, and then build communities together and share audiences. So that can be a really inexpensive way. It virtually costs nothing to join a group or reach out to someone in your area and say, hey, we write similarly, let's work together and share our communities. So that's a great one. If you don't have an author website, Squarespace or WordPress are really great. Definitely build your author website and have kind of a home base to send people. And then from that, you can start an email list. So I know that MailChimp, for example, has a free, I think up to 2,000 subscribers, but that's a pretty hefty email list size. So emails are a really great way to engage with your audience. And this is a very, intimate, for lack of a better word, way to do it, because you're not giving your email address to everybody. You're giving it to people who you want to communicate with. So it's a little bit more direct than some social media channels, because you're not just constantly competing with like what your grandma did last night or what her cat's doing today. And so, so it's a little bit more direct. So those three things are all pretty inexpensive. And I would say if you're just starting out and you haven't invested in one or all of those, then author website, email list, and social media are going to be the best way to get your foot in the door, and all, like I said, pretty inexpensive. So that would be my starter kit.
Excellent tips, and darn you, Grandma, seriously,
right,
stop stealing the spotlight. Yeah, your cat can wait.
Exactly.
What are the most common mistakes you see when people submit their manuscripts for distribution through Lulu.com?
Yeah, so the biggest mistake I think that we see is people not understanding sort of the end game coming to Lulu. So what I mean by that is when you're ready to publish and you have your manuscript, you always want to think about, what is your end goal? Is it to raise awareness about a nonprofit? Is it to raise money, raise revenue? Is it to, just get the word out that you're writing out? What is your goal in mind? And if it's to raise revenue, then that's going to look different than if it's just to like hand out at a show, or you're going to a conference and want to get this information in people's hands. So it's important going into it to know exactly, like, I know for this book I'm writing, I want to be able to sell it on Amazon. I want it on Barnes & Noble. I want it on Ingram. Like I want all these distribution channels, and that's great. But if you do that, then you need to be aware that different channels accept different sizes of formatted books. They need, you need to have an ISBN if you want to distribute. Like that's just kind of standard practice. So that's something that I see a lot of people getting, sort of, you get along in the process and then, your metadata isn't right and you want to distribute. Well, you have to go back to square one. So it's, I would say it's a combination of not understanding what your end goal is for your book, and then not understanding that the metadata has to be perfect to get it there. So I would just encourage anyone who is kind of on that self-publishing journey and is in kind of the beginning stages, or maybe you just finished your manuscript and you're exploring platforms, just go ahead and skip to the end and your ideal dream for your book. What is it? And figure that out, and then work backwards to say, okay, so I know I want it to distribute through these channels. So I know they accept these formats. So I know I'm good there. I know I need an ISBN. So I'm going to go ahead and get it. I know that my metadata needs to be right because I'm going to distribute through these different channels, and sort of build your checklist that way. So that's definitely one of the things that we see a lot of people not understanding in the beginning and then kind of paying for it at the end.
Nice. You touched on something. It seems like it's a perfect transitional time. Tell me about the International Standard Book Number, also known as the ISBN. Is it important to buy your own, or can we rely on distribution platform assigned ISBNs?
Well, again, it kind of goes back to what do you want to do with the book. So if you are thinking, at Lulu, we see a plethora of reasons why people are publishing, from, your grandma who wants to publish her cat pictures into a book to, people who want to be, bestsellers and have aspirations that are sort of in that more traditional vein. And so it goes back to thinking, if you are planning on being an author as a business, then I would suggest buying an ISBN. So you can buy it through Lulu. We sell them, I think, at $99. So you can buy them, and that just gives you more control. That's just another step in more control of the content. So if you're thinking, I want to have it on this platform, but I may want to move the content, I may want to do other things with it, then it's just a safe bet to go ahead and buy the ISBN outright. So there's no, it's yours, you own it. But I will say that we also have ISBNs for free. So if you come to Lulu and you think, I want to have this book and I know that I want to sell it through retail, so I have to have the ISBN, then it's really easy to go ahead and we'll assign one for you, or you can take a free one from us. And then, if you want to, one of the great things about Lulu is you can essentially use us as a white label service. So you can come to Lulu and change the imprint name to, so say I'm publishing a book, and my publishing house is Chelsea's the Best Publishing. So, I changed my imprint name to Chelsea's the Best Publishing, and then everywhere you see it, you're not going to see Lulu anywhere. So even if you use a free, unless you want to for, whatever reason. So you can do that. And so you can take one of our free ISBNs and just change the imprint name to your imprint. And the only reason it would default to Lulu as the publisher is if you don't fill that information out. So there's a couple ways to go about it.
That is really cool. You just informed me on something I did not know about Lulu, and it almost is getting me where I'm kicking myself, because you can't necessarily go to, and I'm not trying to throw any of your competitors under the bus, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. CreateSpace isn't going to allow you to change the imprint. It's going to stay under CreateSpace, and of course, Amazon's big, all-encompassing juggernaut-like sized platform. So that is really cool that you can switch the imprint from Lulu over to your own. Man, that's awesome. I'm real excited. I got goosebumps right now.
Good.
So here we go. Here's a common question I get, and I hopefully you can kind of help shed light on it. How much money can a self-published author realistically expect to make in their first, I'd say, year to 2 years in the business?
Okay, so I wish I could just say $100,000 still. I mean, come on, what are you?
Don't we wish it was all true, right?
But this is so different for every single person, because nonfiction books are different than fiction books. I mean, it can be very genre specific even. So my advice to someone, Because like I said, it's different for every person and it just depends on your goals. So my advice to anyone who's asking this question is get clear on what you want, and then you'll be able to decide what that number is. And then you can decide if you want to work to achieve it, or if, this is several years down the line, then that's, it's different for everybody. But what we do, and one way to look at it, the kind of an algorithm to kind of think of what you need to do to get to that place, is thinking of your yearly monetary goal divided by the amount of fans you have. That's going to sort of equal the revenue that you would need per month to sustain yourself or to meet your goals. So some people, your goal is, I just want to pay my Netflix bill. I just want to be able to write and pay my Netflix bill and order pizza, and that's my writing career is going to cover that. So if that's your goal, then you take that, $200 or whatever, take that amount and then divide it by how many active fans do you have today? How many engaged active fans do you have? And that can be kind of tricky, so I'll go back to my email list when I was talking about building out an email list. Your email list and how many people you have opening your emails and interacting with it can be a really good indicator of your engaged fans and how many people you have that really are interested in your content. So, again, it's different for everybody, but you need to kind of find out how many people you have that will buy your information, your content regularly. And then that will kind of help you dictate, okay, so I've got 20 fans that are willing to pay this amount of money every month. When I put out my content, I know I'll have 20 people that are going to pay for it. So then that can kind of help you dictate how much money you're going to make. So that is not, as glamorous or sexy as me saying like $50,000 a year, which, would be great. But honestly, it's just about building up that base. And I would suggest to anyone who's asking that question that it's the wrong question to ask, because you should be thinking, where can I be in 3 or 4 or 5 years? Not, in 12 months or 24 months. Because really, if you're self-publishing and if you're a writer, most of the time you should be in it for the long game, because your content isn't going anywhere. It can live forever on these platforms, and you should always keep writing. I mean, there's so many success stories of self-published authors and traditional authors where it's not their first book, it's not their second book, it's not their third book. It may be the 8th book before it really picks up, and then their backlist will start selling. So my, the best recommendation that we can make and what we tell our authors is get clear on your goals and what does it mean for you to be a successful writer? Because maybe that is just, hey, I can pay for my late library charges now. That's great. So that's, $15 a month or whatever. So getting that number and then figuring out, kind of working backwards and thinking, okay, this is what I want to make. This is how many active fans I have. And so this is how I'm going to figure this out every month. So again, I wish it could be an easier answer, but it's just different for everybody. And it's just sort of the way it goes.
Nailed it. That was awesome. That's exactly that was not exactly the exact answer, but that was really the answer. That was awesome. So what do you think holds a lot of people back from actually publishing their content?
It's scary. I mean, that's it. That's what holds people back, because it's terrifying, because you're, in one foul swoop saying, I have something that deserves to be read by people or deserves to be seen by the public. Yeah. And, so that can be really intimidating to people. But I also think that publishing is a scary word, because it just has a lot of connotations of like, a group of people judging your content and then putting it up and then publish, like I'm a published author or, creator or entrepreneur. And that can be really intimidating. And I think that that's what it is. I mean, people get really scared when they think about the work that goes into it. And, I'm not going to lie to you. It is a lot of work, putting, yes. putting forth anything that's worth people seeing and noticing and creating conversation takes work, and as it should. But, that's just a small part of it. And, I think that anyone on the other side of that publishing wall that says, yeah, I did it, I jumped off the cliff. Well, I jumped off the cliff. That's a terrible, terrible analogy. But I did it, I did it. I saw this through and I finished it. Now I have this book in my hands. I don't think that there's a very overwhelming population of people who are thinking, oh, I really shouldn't have done that, unless they didn't do it smart, unless they have 12,000 books in their garage that they can't sell. And they're like, why did I do this? So I would say that it is, all of the anxiety you have about it, that's probably valid, and that's good. And that's kind of a fire in the belly kind of thing. But, there are always going to be people who don't, and I mean, that's just as easy as that. There are always people who don't do it. But nowadays, like the day that we live in, the time that we live in, there's so many tools and resources available to people that make it so easy to do and remove so many barriers. I mean, for Lulu, we're print on demand. So you can order one copy. You can turn your bad poetry into a good book. And then if you decide, oh my gosh, this was terrible, I don't know what I was thinking, put it in your drawer and move on. Like, you never have to look at it again. So, I mean, I would just encourage everyone who has a desire to self-publish and is intimidated by it to understand that there are abundant resources available to anyone who really wants to do it. And then B, you're not committing to anything by putting your work out there. Like I said, I mean, you can put it up there. If it's not going great, take it down or remove it or change your name on the internet or your pin name. I mean, there's virtual, there's so many ways to be able to reinvent yourself and change directions. And again, with self-publishing, and especially if you choose a print on demand model, you one and done if you want to. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely an intimidating thing, but it's never been easier to be out there and publish your work. And so do it.
Yeah, I can say this, that having printed scores of books, the nerves never go away. It doesn't get less scary. It still does. And every now and then when I go to look at my reviews, I got to take a deep breath and go, no Emmy, no Emmy, no Emmy, no Emmy, no Emmy.
Deep breaths are helpful. Yeah, for sure.
Given the choice, would you choose passion or profit?
I would choose passion because I know that it would be able to make me a profit. So that would be my answer. I mean, if you're passionate enough about anything, then you can probably monetize it at some point. So, I mean, I think it all goes back to, I feel like I'm not to beat this dead horse any longer, but with all the social media platforms, things like Podia, or Patreon that we mentioned, or these ways to monetize your blog. There's so many ways to get eyes on your content and reach the people who are going to value it. So it's not like you have to put something out there and have other people validate it. You can get to your community, you can do the research and find out who's looking for the content that you have and how can you reach them, and then make it available to them. And so if you're really passionate about something, then there are probably other people who feel that way about it too. And it's just kind of building that community and thinking, is this an activism thing? Do I have a platform to be an activist? And how can I use this to, activate other people and get my message out there? And so, I don't think, passion first and then the profit, I think, would be my choice.
Excellent. I love it. Well, we're going to start to wrap things up. So of course, I want to know, how can the viewers get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I will put this out on the interwebs. My email address is cbennett@lulu.com. And we have, on social media, lulu.com, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then YouTube, LuluU. So Lulu Press is our YouTube channel. So yeah, check us out there. We do new content every Friday for the foreseeable future. So check us out. Yeah.
Very good. Well, folks, we've covered quite a bit of ground here, and I really do appreciate you taking your time here with me today, Chelsea. It was really awesome. You gave me some really eye-opening things, and that's what I love to get out of interviews like this. So if you happen to be watching this and you're really enjoying that, make sure that you click that thumbs up. And of course, go visit Lulu Press on YouTube. There's a good reason why I say I like it, and it's not like Chelsea's paying me. I do legitimately enjoy her channel and the content that she puts out there. So I think if you're enjoying mine, you most definitely will transition over there. In the meantime and in between time till later, it's been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I'll see you soon.